in the last stream, we were working on finally getting our oakwood tree farm up and running using the plant sower and the plant gatherer from industrial Foregoing. Since the end of the last stream, that system has been running for a little while here, and if we go and quickly check over by the storage drawer, we're currently up at 9,092 oak logs ready to be used for us going forward. And I would not be surprised if we were actually getting pretty close to being able to make another tier 4 apiary. Of course, right now, we do still have this grass drawer right here, which was not its intended place. I don't want to keep it there forever. I think right now, as a way to just get this going again, I'm going to put it there. I'm going to grab one of our botany pots. Did I leave it over here? I did. I'm going to quickly snag this botany pot back. I'm going to ignore those creepers because they can't hurt me if I don't get close. And then we're going to replant this just kind of back behind here for now. And hopefully, slowly but surely, that's going to continue growing grass so that eventually we can, of course, replace the remaining 3 apiaries here with tier 4 apiaries to maximize the amount of resources that we're producing with our bees. And speaking of apiaries, between streams, we have updated the server to the newest version of the Modpack, and so now finally we can replace the glass in our apiaries with mana glass. This stuff right here now has the tag resourceful bees : valid _ apiary, and so what we can do is if we get a bunch of mana glass, we should just be able to replace the regular glass that is already on our apiaries. And thankfully, the building gadgets mod adds a pretty nifty tool called the exchanging gadget. That being this guy right here. Fairly easy to make, especially once you have 131,000 diamonds, but essentially, this should wirelessly charge, I think, on our hotbar here from the Flux controller. It is. And if I'm not mistaken, it uses the same hotkey as the building gadget. Yeah, it's the settings menu key. Right now I have mine set to 8 on the numpad. But if you hold that down, you can specify the range. I'm going to go ahead and set mine to probably 5. Should do the trick for now. We're going to, of course, need to get some mana glass. Thankfully, we do have a little bit of glass in here, but we also have even more glass in this storage drawer, which does need moving, of course. This is still in the same place it was when we had our old base here, and this is kind of one of the last things yet to be moved. But essentially, all we have to do, drop the glass directly into the mana pool. And look at that, we have a bunch of mana glass. So I think what we should be able to do here is if we were to quickly put one of these down, like so, we should then be able to shift right-click using the exchanging gadget. And then from there, if we just right-click on the glass, it's going to take all of the, or enough mana glass out of our inventory, replace the glass that's currently in the apiary, and then I believe it also gives us back the glass as well. So if we do it again, okay, so it does kind of simulate the breaking of the glass, which is less than ideal. I was really hoping we'd actually get the glass back, but in fairness, that's not too bad, and it does make a nice, quick, and easy way for us to replace all of the glass that we currently have. And there we go. We now have mana glass on all of our apiaries, and one of the added benefits of mana glass that I think I did mention in a previous stream is that it does emit light, and so what we should be able to do, I think if we can get into our apiary here, is hopefully if we press F7 here, we get rid of the torch. Yeah, there are no longer any of those yellow crosses in here indicating that this room is fully lit up and that no mobs are going to spawn. Previously, we had torches right in the center of the rooms to prevent mobs from spawning, but now that we have the mana glass emitting light everywhere, we don't have to worry about it. There's no torch in here, of course, because we had glowstone down, and in here, we can go ahead and get rid of this torch as well. Nice. What I want to work on in today's stream chat is I would like to delve a little deeper into the world of blood magic, because as we mentioned a myriad times before, blood magic is kind of the mod between us and getting into a ton of Mekanism. All of the machines from Mekanism require the steel casing, and every single steel casing has to be made in the blood altar. And while we could, if we wanted to, manually make every single piece of steel casing, it's going to be a lot more interesting and a lot faster if we get a higher tier of blood altar and some extra setups around blood magic to increase the speed at which we can make things like those steel casings. Also, blood magic just has some pretty cool stuff in and of itself that we should play around with. So one of the first things that I would like to do today, chat, is I would like to get one of these incense altars. The base altar here is really not too difficult to make. It's made with 1 charcoal, 1 blood orb, you do get the blood orb back, 2 cobblestone, and then 4 regular stone. It does appear that we're missing some charcoal. That is fine. We can take some of our near 10,000 wood here and get that into one of these furnaces. Perfect. I believe that our weak blood orb is currently over in the alchemy table here. It is indeed. That's from when we made our first bit of grass in that alchemy table a couple of streams back. But essentially, what we should be able to do, if we quickly get rid of some of the glass here, is craft all of these up. And the idea behind the incense altar is that it increases the amount of life points that you get in the blood altar when using the sacrificial knife. So right now, if we look in here, we're at 1.8 buckets of life essence. If we use the sacrificial knife, that number goes up to 2. So you get 200 millibuckets of life essence every single time you use the sacrificial knife. And so it works out to 1 heart being worth 200 life points. Now, if we were to put down the incense altar, let's say right about here, you'll notice that right away, our sacrificial knife here is now like glowing. And if we head on over, you'll see at the top there, we're at 2 buckets in our blood altar. If we right click again, it's going to take all of our health points. So when you right click with the dagger once it's glowing, it will take all of your hearts all the way down to just 1 heart. So it will take every single heart you have and dump them in the blood altar. The added benefit is that it also increases the amount of life points you get from that sacrifice. Now, the only reason we can tell how much blood is in our blood altar is because the mod at the top of the screen there is showing us. Usually what you're supposed to do is grab what is known as a divination sigil, this guy right here. This is made with redstone and a blank slate using an alchemy array, which is using arcane ashes. So the arcane ashes here are fairly easy to make. It's 1 redstone, 1 coal or charcoal, gunpowder, white dye, and then the blood orbs. We do need 1 more blank slate. Thankfully, that is just regular old Minecraft stone in the blood altar. Right now, still going to take a little bit of time for that to transform. Hopefully, one of the things that we are going to work on in today's stream is getting some speed runes into the altar to hopefully increase the speed at which crafts like this happen. But once we have that blank slate there, if we head on back over to here, we should be able to put all of our items in, along with the weak blood orb. And as long as we have enough essence in our blood orb, we should be good to go. Now, I actually don't know how much we need here. So this requires 500 life points in the orb. Right now we might not have that, so if we just quickly right-click with the weak blood orb here, we can infuse that with some more life points. Then if we put that in, we get ourselves arcane ashes. Nice. So the idea here is that you can take the arcane ashes and you can right-click on the ground. You'll see it says ashes used to draw an alchemy circle. So if you right click on the ground, you get this pretty nifty looking arcane circle. And then if we double back down to this divination sigil, what we have to do is we have to put redstone and a blank slate onto that circle. So there are always 2 items in these crafts. The one on the left, in our case the redstone, is the first item that you right click on. So we'll take one of our almost 700,000 redstone and right click. That's going to change the look of the circle. And then from there, you right click with the second item. In this case, it is the blank slate. And then a really cool animation is going to begin with our ritual disc spinning in front of us. And once this ritual is finished, we should get a divination sigil. Nice. And with this, you can right click onto your blood altar and it should tell us in the chat the current tier, our current essence, and how many life points we can currently fit into the blood altar. You'll see right now we have a maximum capacity of 10,000. Obviously for us, not hugely useful because we could already shift and see that at the top, but we also have the added benefit of being able to see how good our incense altar is. So you'll see now, in the top left-hand corner, there are 2 numbers. There is the altar with a 0, and then there is a dagger with a 20. So if we right-click here, it means that the current percentage bonus is plus 20%. So now, as opposed to originally, when we were getting just 200 life points per heart, we would be getting 200 plus 20%, which is 40. So we would be getting 240 millibuckets per life point. And we also get the added benefit of it taking all of the hearts at once. So you right-click once, it takes all but 2 of our hearts, and boom, we have just a ton of life points available in our blood altar. But this can get better. So right now this is very good because it almost fills our blood altar with, just one or two ticks of the knife. However, when we start to increase the size of our altar, we can of course replace some of our runes, and when we replace some of our runes, we can replace some of them with capacity runes. I mentioned it a little bit, but we do have multiple runes that we can choose from here. There is speed, rune of sacrifice, rune of self-sacrifice, displacement, capacity, augmented capacity, the rune of the orb, the acceleration rune, and the charging rune. All of these runes have different effects, and they change the way that the altar behaves. One of the key runes here is the rune of capacity, which will increase the amount of life points that can be stored in the blood altar. And when that happens, we're going to want to try and get as much or as many life points as we possibly can from the sacrificial knife. And that is where the number at the top left here, that 0, comes into play. Now, it took me a while to get my head around this because the book does do a good job of explaining it, but there's just a lot of moving parts, and it explains it in a very kind of long-winded way. But essentially, the number in the top left there is tranquility, and the higher you can get your tranquility number, the higher percentage bonus you're going to get from using this glowing charged sacrificial knife. So if we go over to Incense Altar and we head across here, the basic setup is just having the altar down as it is. But what you can do from here is you can add rings to the altar to make it better and to add to the tranquility. To do this, you have to first start by adding paths. So you'll see here there are wooden paths, tiled wooden paths, stone paths, tiled stone paths, worn stone paths, and tiled worn stone paths. So you'll see that it says no path gives us a 20% bonus. If we use wooden paths, we can get up to a 60% bonus. If we get a stone path, we can get up to a 120% bonus. And then if we get a worn stone path, we can get up to a 200% bonus, meaning that we would get 600 LP for every heart that we use. And that would give us a crazy number of life points, when it does the whole thing where it takes all of our hearts but 2. So we could fill up a much larger blood altar with 1 tick of the knife if we had a fully upgraded worn stone path incense altar. There is a higher tier one with the Obsidian Path. Unfortunately, NYI means not yet implemented, so there's no Obsidian Path available to us just yet. So if we're going to go all the way to the highest tier, we are going to have to get the Master Blood Orb. I do believe the Blood Orbs go in the order that they're shown here in JEI. So the first tier is Weak, followed by Apprentice, followed by Magicians, followed by Master. The Master Blood Orb does require a tier 4 Blood Altar, so we are going to have to do a little bit of upgrading before we can get up to that level. The regular path, I assume, can be made using the orb that we already have. Not quite. It does require an Apprentice Blood Orb. Interesting. Thankfully, the Apprentice Blood Orb can be made using the current Blood Altar that we have. So let's quickly get a block of redstone, and let's throw that into the Blood Altar. That's hopefully going to give us the next tier of Blood Orb. Once we have that, we can then begin upgrading our Incense Altar here. So we are a little limited with the wooden path. The wooden path, I believe, can only go 3 rings out. And a ring, by the way, I'll use cobblestone to show it here, but a ring looks something like this. Actually, it's going to be easier for me to show this if I kind of move it up by 1. And then each ring looks like this. So it's kind of 3 blocks wide on each side of the path. You don't fill in the corners. So that would be 1 ring. Obviously, you can't do it with cobblestone. It has to be done with wooden path, which we're hopefully going to get any second now once that redstone there is done. But then the second ring that you would add would look something like this. That would be the second ring. The second ring doesn't have to be on the same level as the previous ring. You can build these kind of up or down. So we could have, for example, like another ring up here, and then we could get rid of this. And that would work just fine. That would also be fine. We could do the next one up again as well, and kind of make an altar with stairs coming down to it. We could also do it in the other direction as well, where we have the rings going down, which I think is probably what I'm going to go with. This orb here is done. Beautiful. And so now we should be able to craft up some of these wooden paths here. We just take some regular Minecraft planks, craft those up with the Apprentice Blood Orb, and boom, wooden path. So let's clear out the cobblestone I just put down. And let's begin by putting down our first layer of, or first ring, I should say, of wooden path, like so. Now, at the minute, you'll notice that the tranquility is still 0 despite us having our first path. And that is because in order to increase the tranquility, you have to put blocks in the area between the paths. So in this case, like here, 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 and here to increase the tranquility. And if we look in the book, it should tell us the options. Yeah. So the blocks that contribute to tranquility are lava, water, life essence, which is the liquid that you get out of the blood altar, netherrack, dirt, farmland, potatoes, carrots, wheat, netherwort, beetroot, leaves, logs, fire, and grass. So if we were to grab, let's say, some logs and put them here, 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 and here, that should increase the tranquility. Look at that, we're 141 tranquility, and went, 200 tranquility, and you'll notice below that we're now getting a 33% bonus to our dagger. Pretty nifty. Now, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that you can put tranquil blocks, like logs, up to 2 blocks above where the wooden path ends. And this is where the book kind of gets a bit confusing with all of the rules of where you can put things and where you can't put things, and etc., etc. But I'm fairly certain that, for example, if we put a log here, that's going to increase the tranquility a little more. Yep, up to 223. And we could do the same thing, here, here, and here. That should increase it a little bit more. Now, there is a system in place that makes it less efficient to use the same kind of block over and over and over again. And they do explain it in the book. It involves some math with the square rooting the number of blocks that you have of the same kind, etc., etc. Not something we really have to worry about too much, but essentially, all you have to know is that it is more efficient to use multiple different kinds of blocks when trying to get the highest tranquility. So like right now, for example, we are at a tranquility of 282 with a bonus of 38. But if I replace my 4 logs here with 4 leaves, which are also tranquil blocks, we'll see the number jump up to 400 tranquility and 46 on the bonus. And that's not because leaves are better than logs, it's just because having the different blocks makes it more efficient. Now, of course, what we can do here, if we want to take this even further, we could add a second ring. Again, the ring can go like just here. It can also go 1 block up or 1 block down. Actually, I think it can go up to 5 blocks up or 5 blocks down, so you can make some pretty interesting structures with this. But if we do this, we've now increased the area, of course, that we can place blocks into. So let's say, for example, we get some dirt. Let's also say we get some carrots. Yeah, we got some carrot seeds here. We'll also grab a hoe. What we can do here is we can put down dirt. Dirt by itself, not tranquilizing. Farmland, however, is tranquilizing. And then on top of that, carrots are also tranquilizing. So these count, I believe, twice. I believe we get 1 bonus for the farmland, and then much like with the leaves above the logs, we get a second bonus for having the carrots on top of here as well. And also I can just shift actually to make these grow. I don't have to waste bone meal, but we'll use some bone meal here to make that just a bit faster as well. And so now if we go check again, look at that, we're up at 760, and we're at plus 60 to the efficiency. Now, it's at that point that we have to kind of look back into the book here, because 60%, I believe, is the maximum we can get. Yeah, so with wooden paths, you can't get above a 60% bonus, so there's actually no point in putting down anything extra here, at least from an efficiency standpoint. You could make it look nicer, of course. Right now, it looks a bit horrible, but from an efficiency standpoint, we actually can't get any more out of this altar until we upgrade our path. Somebody in the Twitch chat does ask a good question. How close does the incense altar have to be to the blood altar? And the answer is that it doesn't have to be close at all. You can put this anywhere you like. I'm fairly certain that as soon as you've used the sacrificial knife, it will take all your hearts. As soon as you walk close to the incense altar again, let me quickly see if I can. There we go. So you'll see that we go to the altar, we use the bonus that we had, and the sacrificial knife resets. As soon as you go close to your altar, your incense altar that is, it will reglow. So you have to be within a 5x5 area of the incense altar to get the glowing knife. But as soon as you have the glowing knife, it sticks with you until you use it at the blood altar. So you could have this anywhere in the world that you wanted. You can fly over to your incense altar, get the bonus, fly back, and use it on the blood altar. I think what I'm going to do is once we get a big multi-block blood altar, like if we look in the book here, you'll see that you can build some really cool looking structures for this altar. And hopefully today we are going to get a pretty nifty looking structure of our own. But I think I'm going to build mine underneath the platform. And so my plan is to have an elevator system, which like we have over here, where we have one elevator that is up by the blood altar. and then another that is down by the incense altar so that I can kind of come down, charge up the knife, hit spacebar, go up the elevator, use it on the blood altar, and then if I need to, I can go back down the elevator, charge up the knife again, come back up, rinse and repeat, right? So let's see then. If we're going to upgrade to the next tier, we need the Magician's Blood Orb, which is made in a tier 3 altar with 25,000 life points. Now, at the moment, our altar can only hold 10,000, and I think even if we upgrade the altar to tier 3, I think it still only has a capacity of 10,000 until you add more runes to the setup, like more runes that can increase the capacity. But let's take a quick look. What do we need for a tier 3 altar? We need 25 more runes of any kind. By the way, it shows all the runes here being the same. You can mix and match your runes. They don't all have to be the same all the time. But we need 25 more runes of any kind, along with 8 stone bricks and then 4 glowstone blocks. Sorry, 20 runes, not 25 runes. Chat has corrected me there. So that shouldn't be too difficult. Of course, every single rune, I believe, does require a blank rune. Yeah, so we might as well make the 20 blank runes first. Some runes, in fact, require 2 blank runes. I did see one just then. Like this one here, the Rune of the Orb requires 2 blank runes per Rune of the Orb, but most of them require just the 1. So let's take a look then and see about making 20 more blank runes. If we're going to do that, we need 20 blank slates, and those are made with the stone. So I think we should look at speeding this up and also at automating it. So to speed it up, we need the runes of speed, the speed runes. These are made with regular stone, more blank slates, and sugar. To automate this, I think we're going to jump back to our trusty friends, the item routers. We do have 2 of these lying around. And essentially, what I'm thinking here is that we can use a sender module, which we have 3 of, and we can use a retriever module, which is also called a puller module, this guy right here. And we should also be able to use this guy, the regulator augment, that we made previously, before we made this for our honey setup, before we tweaked our honey setup to no longer require it. But the regulator augment lets us specify how many of a certain block are allowed into the blood altar at any given time. And this is super useful because the blood altar will allow you to pump as many items as you want into it, but it doesn't always really work out so well. So, for example, if we wanted to automate regular blank slates, you would think that you could just like put a chest down, have an item pipe pull the stone out, and then have another item pipe pull out the finished rune. Unfortunately, that doesn't really work, especially not with the cyclic pipes. It would just pull like a stack of stone, store that in there, and then because you can't filter the item pipes from cyclic, it would also just pull the stack of stone right back out again. So you have to be able to filter what you pull out of the blood altar. So let's go ahead and let's place down 1 item router. For now, I guess like right about, I'll place it 1 block out. We could place it, I was going to say we could place it right here, but I guess we'll place them, for now at least, like here and here. I then think we'll have a sender module that is linked to the blood altar in here. Again, we want to make sure we have the regulator augment inside of the sender module. So we're going to put this in and set this to 1, like so. We can then put that back in there. And so now, if we put stone directly into this item router, it will only send 1 piece of stone at a time. Nice. We can then, on this side, of course, have the puller module. We do have to be careful here because here we need to specify what we want to pull. So we are going to shift right click here, but we need to make sure that we whitelist only the specific items that we want. In this case, we want the blank slate. So we can put that in on the whitelist. We can put the puller module into the item router. And then now, as soon as this stone here is transformed into a blank slate, it will then be pulled out over into the item router and the next craft will begin. We can even take this 1 step further here in that we could now teach our system how to do this, right? We could put a refined storage crafter on top of the item router here. We could teach the system that 1 stone equals 1 slate, and then we could have an importer over on this item router to pull in the blank slates once they're done, which I think is probably worth doing just because we're going to need so many of these going forward. So I've made a crafter and an importer here. I don't think we're going to be able to get these actually up and running today. The reason for that is that I think we're going to be out of power. But now that we're starting to get these blank slates here, we should be able to take a look at making some of these speed runes. So regular stone, sugar, a blank rune, and 2 blank slates. Okay, I have started smelting some stone up over here. So let's pick up a few of these. I think we'll start with like 3 here and see if we can make that. Yeah, we have enough runes for 3 here. So 1, 2, 3. And I believe each one of these, I think, gives a 10% boost to speed. Let's have a look. If we go to index and type in speed, the speed rune increases by an additive 20% per rune. Chat has pointed out that with a tier 2 altar, the corners can only be used for regular runes. So right now, only this middle speed rune is actually doing any work. If we wanted to make these actually useful, we'd have to put them here and here. Not quite sure why that is, but you'll see it does show in the book. It shows that you can only have them in the 4 side bits, not in the corners. It does mention it here. The runes in the cardinals can be upgraded, but the runes at the corners cannot act as upgrade runes until tier 3. So we have to wait until we have the tier 3 altar before we can fill them all in. Either way, this should help, hopefully now be a good deal faster at actually transforming the stone here. And so we should start to get these blank slates much quicker as well. And not too long later, we now have 20 blank slates. I did make 1 more speed rune here, so we now have 4 in total. And if we quickly grab our stone out of these furnaces, hopefully we have what it takes to make 20 new blank runes. Not quite, we're at 15. Okay, we have enough blank slates for it. It's just the stone that we're missing. And so I think, chat, it might not be a terrible idea to quickly swap our material. First of all, we should move the material Stoneworks factory, because right now it is just sitting out here in the middle of nowhere, and it has no power, which is less than ideal. If we move that elsewhere, let's say for now we place it down here somewhere, what we should be able to do, and I think temporarily I'm going to replace the enrichment chamber here. I think what we'll do is we'll change this to just smelt, and then we'll turn this off, so we'll disable everything else here. So this is working. This is producing stone. I will get a draw for that stone, which again temporarily we'll put down right about here, and we'll make sure that this blue section is set to push up. We should see that eject as soon as this arrow finishes here. Beautiful. And we can even take this one step further. If we temporarily steal the speed and efficiency upgrades from this guy down here, we should be able to make that Stoneworks factory much, much faster. Look at that. And so now we're producing stone much, much faster than we could with the regular furnace. This is definitely going to help us tremendously when we look to make some of the even higher tiers of Blood Altar, right? When we have to get, 30, 40, 50 new runes for the highest tier of altar, and we're going to have so much stone to make that happen. Having that stone being made for us down there is going to make that much, much easier. For now, though, we should have what it takes, I believe, to make the final 5 runes here for our tier 3 altar. So chat has pointed out that we should probably plan for the future here, and thankfully in the book you can click this little visualize button, and it will show you the full multi-block for when it's done. So this is the tier 5 Blood Altar, which is a huge 17 by 17 structure. So we're obviously not going to build this just yet, but what we can do here is we can, of course, begin building our tier 3 altar up at the top here, and then when we need to build a tier 4 or tier 5 altar, we can just add below that, right? So for now, we could, if we wanted to unvisualize, go back to tier 3, visualize again, right-click that here, and that should then show us exactly what we need for just the tier 3 altar, which we should have all of the runes for. And there we go. We have our tier 3 altar. Looking a little janky because we only have a couple of speed runes here, but it is upgraded. And so now if we were to right-click with our divination sigil here, we should see that tier 3, capacity still 10,000 with 0 LP inside of it. But we can upgrade that capacity, of course, with the runes of capacity, which is what we're going to have to do if we want to get the next blood orb here, because we need a capacity of 25,000. So let me quickly check how many of these we're going to need. If we type in capacity, the rune of capacity increases the capacity by an additive 20% per rune. So 20% of 10,000 is 2,000. So I believe when it says additive, that means that you get 20,000 each time you add a new rune. It's not 20% of the previous capacity, if that makes sense. So the first rune is going to take it from 10,000 to 12,000. the second one will take it from 12,000 to 14,000. It doesn't do 20% of 12,000, it does 20% of the initial base 10,000. So if that's the case, we need to get, I believe, 8 capacity runes if we're going to make this happen. That's going to give us an extra 16,000 capacity, taking us over the 25,000 that we need. There are these runes of augmented capacity here. These give you a multiplicative 7.5% addition to each rune. So the difference there between additive and multiplicative is that the additive rune gives you the same bonus each time, whereas these augmented runes of capacity are much more difficult to make. You need the previous tier to make them, but these will give you more once you already have a large amount, right? So initially it makes sense to go with the regular runes of capacity, because by default, the augmented rune of capacity is only going to give you an extra 750 millibuckets of capacity, because that's 7.5% of 10,000. But if you have, let's say, an altar that has 50,000 capacity, and you add a rune of augmented capacity to that, it would increase the amount by 3,750, which is more than the 2,000 you would get from a regular rune of capacity. So the math can get a bit complex there, but essentially once you have a good amount of capacity, there's a point where it becomes beneficial to start investing in the runes of augmented capacity because they are multiplicative as opposed to additive. For now though, we don't have to worry about that. All we have to worry about is getting 8 of the capacity runes, the regular ones, not the augmented ones. And to do that, we need more stone, quite a few buckets, and we need imbued slates. We need 8 of these. And this is where things can get a little janky here, because now, if we want to get these imbued slates here, we have to get a piece of stone, which of course we're fresh out of, but we should be able to grab from our new Stoneworks factory over here. We should also definitely look at putting a torch on top of that Stoneworks factory there so we don't get any more skeletons spawning in the future. But if we take this stone over and we put this in, we'll also give it some life points. What will happen is, slowly but surely, that stone will turn into the regular blank slate that we made previously. If we leave that blank slate in, that blank slate will slowly but surely transform into a reinforced slate. And then if we leave that guy in, that will slowly but surely transform into an imbued slate, so long as there is enough life points in the altar to get all the way up there. The tricky part is automating this, because if we were to put down our item routers again, the item router that is whitelisted to pull the imbued slates would just pull those directly out, right? Which is not necessarily what we're after. So I think one of the easiest ways for us to do this is probably going to be, given how easy it is to make new item routers, I think we could probably just have a few different item routers. And again, things might look a little janky for a second here, but let's say we put a sender module down over here. We could then have a couple of item routers over here, and you can configure these item routers to activate with or without a redstone signal. So what we could do, if we wanted to, is we could have 3 puller modules, each one with a puller module whitelisted to a different slate, and then depending on which slate we'd like to automate at that given time, we could then just flick some levers on the back to configure that. It's not the most automated system, and it's definitely not going to be great for when we look at using refined storage if we wanted to automate this in the future. But for now, given that we do need to get a large number of different tiers of slates, I think it's probably worthwhile investing in. Okay, so this should now work. What I've done is we've made some more puller modules. Each puller module is filtered to a different slate. So we have the first tier of slate, the second tier of slate, and the third tier of slate. I've also then configured each of these item routers to redstone mode high. By default, they're set to always, which means they work without a redstone signal. Here, they require a high redstone signal in order to work. So if we were to right-click this lever, that should enable this item router. This item router is whitelisted to only pull imbued slates, which are the third tier of slates. And so now, if we once again grab some stone from our new Stoneworks factory, which we should definitely look at hooking up to our refined storage system at some point so we can access it wirelessly. But for now, if we put that in like so, the stone should be sent up into the altar just as soon as we change this, because of course we have moved the blood altar now, so we need to redo that. And we should probably also redo this one as well. That's the one we set up originally. And So long as we have enough life points in here, what should happen is the stone should be slowly but surely transformed into a tier 1 slate, then a tier 2 slate, and then finally a tier 3 slate, at which point it's extracted, and we can use it for crafting. Specifically, we need 8 of these in order to be able to craft the capacity runes so that we can get the next tier of Blood Orb. So we don't quite have the 8 imbued slates yet for the capacity runes. We do have 6 of them though, which is a good start here. But Chet is making some good points in that there are a few things we can do to make our lives a little easier. So first things first, we could now look at making a few of those capacity runes. We should be able to make 6 of them in total. I guess for now what we'll do is we'll take like these 5 here. So there is 5 runes of capacity. And of course we can put these back down just where we got them from. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And that's going to give us pretty much a doubling of space there up to 20,000 life points. Another thing that Twitch chat mentioned was the rune of self-sacrifice. This guy right here. This gives you an added 10% to the amount of life points you get on top of the bonus from the incense altar here. So these guys, thankfully not too difficult to make. It is again regular stone, this time with reinforced slates. Those are the tier 2 slates, and then a blank rune and the apprentice blood orb. So again, as long as we grab a couple of runes here, we should be good to go. Right now we only have, I think, 2 of that second tier of slates. So if we quickly grab 2 of these, that should give us an extra 20% though to each deposit that we make. Which just means, fewer deposits required per rune here. And now we only need 2 more of the imbued slates before we can actually make the next blood orb and then upgrade our incense altar. So boom, we now have 8 capacity runes in total, thus giving us 26,000 LP worth of storage. Let's go ahead and turn this guy off, and we'll put that back down as well. We did have to spread these out. Initially, I had them touching each other, which didn't work because the levers kind of power the blocks diagonally as well. So when I had this here, this lever was powering this router, which of course isn't what we wanted. For now though, chat, what we should be able to do is let's take the stone out of this item router. And all we need to do now is we need to get 25,000 life points into this altar. Given that we put in over 5,000 life points per time, that really shouldn't take us too long here. So 26,000 LP later, we can put the gold block in there. That's going to slowly but surely run through the life points in there. That might take a quick minute for that to do its job. But once that's done, we can then look at upgrading our incense altar here one more time. So at that point, we'd move over to, I think it's regular stone path, like the non-1 variety. We can't do 1 until we get the Master Blood Orb, which does require a tier 4 altar, which is a little bit further away for us, which requires even more runes and, a much bigger altar than we have right now. But the next tier here should be super easy. Once we have the upgraded orb, we can make more stone, craft those into stone path, and then we can make this even bigger. I don't know if I mentioned it earlier, but by default, you can only do 3 rings with the wooden path. So this would be the maximum number of rings you could do. With stone path, that being the one that we're about to make, you can do, I think it's 5 rings. And then with 1 stone path, you can do 7 rings. So we're going to upgrade here, I think, to the stone path because we can't do the 1 stone path yet. I think what I might do though, I have a design in mind for how I want to set up the highest tier of incense altar. And so what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to move this incense altar underneath the platform, and I'm going to set the altar up as if we were going to use the highest tier of bricks, because much like with the altar, we can kind of set things up with the intention of expanding it once we get those 1 bricks in the future. So there's our Magician's Blood Orb. You'll love to see it. Let's quickly go grab some more stone. And then over here, if we do this and this, once again, we should be able to craft up a good amount of stone path. You can do a maximum of 5 rings with this, which would be 5 multiplied by 12. So we're talking 60 path. So I'm going to take a full stack here of stone path. That should be more than what we need. And then I'm going to build our new Tranquility altar underneath the current altar here on like a lower platform. So I'm thinking of having the altar down here. As I mentioned earlier, I'm going to use an elevator to get up and down with it. Right now, the stone that we have can only do 5 layers. However, like I mentioned a minute ago, I want to set things up ready for the 7th layer. So as soon as we get the 1 stone path, we can just replace we can use our exchanging gadget that we made earlier to replace the new worn stone path with the old stone path and have an upgraded altar. So that means we have to take 7 rings into account, and I kind of want to make this look a little nice. So I think what we're going to do here, chat, is we're going to have kind of a staggered altar with 2 rings at the top, like so. We're then going to do our 3rd ring here, our 4th ring here, our 5th ring here, and then we're going to do 6 and 7 down here, like this. So on all 4 sides here, I know it's a little dark, we should probably get a torch of some description, but on each of the 4 sides, we're going to have something that looks a little bit like this, and then we're going to fill in the middle gaps with the most tranquil blocks imaginable. And everybody knows that of the listed blocks in the book here, let's find the page for this. Of the listed blocks, the most tranquil here are lava, life essence, netherrack, netherwart, logs, and fire, right? We can all agree that's definitely the most tranquil, and so that's what I'm going to build my altar out of. All right, so quite a bit of building later, and we have the epitome of tranquility. Chat, we have the most tranquil incense altar money can buy. Right now, of course, we're using just stone path, not worn stone path, so the max bonus we can get in the top left there is 120. As soon as we get a tier 4 altar, and as soon as we can make the worn stone path, all we have to do is grab our exchanging gadget, replace the regular stone path here with worn stone path, at which point we should see this number here jump all the way up to 200. I think we have enough stuff here to give us the full 200% tranquility boost, giving us 600 life points per use of the dagger, not including the bonus that we get from the runes of self-sacrifice. We did have to do some tweaks here. Basically, by the way, we have lava, soul sand, netherwart. This here is the life essence, so you get this from the blood altar itself. All you have to do is grab a bucket, put that bucket into the altar, make sure your altar has at least 1,000 millibuckets or 1 bucket worth of life essence in it, and then that will slowly but surely take 1 bucket's worth out, and you get a bucket of life essence that you can then put down and use, and that does give you a bonus with the Tranquility altar. We've also got dark oak logs, glowstone, which is not really adding any benefit. The glowstone is not one of the tranquil items, but this is working, which is super nice. We did have to do a little bit of cheesing to make the woodwork here. You'll see that this dark oak log is a real dark oak log that is benefiting us in terms of tranquility, whereas this dark oak log is actually a chisel and bits dark oak log, because of course with the dark oak log being so close to fire, it lights on fire regularly, and so what we've had to do is we've just taken our chisel and we've taken a little corner out of the log so that now, if it does light on fire, it doesn't actually get destroyed. It will just light on fire, stay on fire for a little bit, and then the fire will go away. It's possible the fire could spread upwards, and that could cause issues for us. People in the Twitch chat have recommended maybe replacing some of the dark oak logs here with some of the new nether woods that are added in 1.16 that are fireproof. We could look at adding those in the future. Right now, we don't really have a way of making those, but it is a possibility. I have mentioned that I do quite like the contrast here. I like the dark oak logs. I think they look good with the rest of the red and the orange that's already there. But the final thing I want to do here, chat, is I want to grab 2 more elevators, which hopefully should be pretty easy for us to make, just as soon as we make a bunch of wool. And then the plan here is to have 1 elevator, let's say right about here, and then have another elevator directly above this. And I think the elevators can go through blocks, so I think we can replace this dirt and have it work just fine. But if we have another elevator, let's say, it's going to look janky here. I was kind of thinking of having it here, but I don't know if we really can put it there. If I put it here, it's going to look janky. Let me try replacing the dirt here just to see if this does indeed work. But if we do something like this, it totally works. So what we should be able to do going forward is we can come down, get our tranquility bonus, jump up, use the dagger, come down, get the tranquility bonus, jump up, use the dagger, come down, get the tranquility bonus, jump up, use the dagger, and we can just go up and down, over and over and over again. There are a bunch of things people have recommended in the Twitch chat in terms of making this more efficient. For example, we could get a beacon, like a vanilla Minecraft beacon, with regeneration to allow us to regen our health faster than we're doing right now. We could look at getting regen charms. There are a couple of charms and potions that add regeneration and give you regeneration, which again would be super useful for just filling our health up even faster than it is already being filled up. But you can see already that we are getting just a bunch of life points every single time now. We filled up that 26,000 so quickly. But I think that's going to have to go ahead and be it for today's stream. Next time we'll come back. We'll, of course, get rid of this area here. It's no longer required. Next time we'll come back. We'll probably do a little bit more work with blood magic here because there is still a few more things that I'd like to do. We still need to get a tier 4 altar. We still need to get some more runes. We'll look at getting that done as well. I also do want to put some bloodstone blocks down here. I think the bloodstone blocks look pretty cool. Those are these big kind of red blocks that are added by blood magic. To make these, we do have to get into the alchemical reaction chamber, which we are going to have to do because the bloodstone bricks are also required for the tier 4 altar, but I'd also like to use them for decoration around the base of this incense altar as well. But yeah, we'll come back. We'll upgrade our altar. We will upgrade our stone path for ultimate tranquility, and then we'll look at maybe doing a little bit of automation as well to see if we can't get that steel casing automated for Mekanism. But for now, guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up today's stream there.